I appreciate you for a minute. Yes, you are welcome, Elyas Irankhah.
Thank you so much.
He has completed his BS at the age of 22 years from Karwan Institute of Higher Education. He is a director of MBM Research Group and professionally good in German language. He has published more than 10 papers in reputed journals and conferences. He has been invited as an editorial board member of repute at the Science, and today's the title of his topic is Early Diagnosis of Alzheimer's Disease with the help of analysis and processing of MRI and brain signals. Welcome, Dr. Elyas. We are looking for this kind of presentation. Will we move forward? You want us to make your presentation flow?
Yeah, we will be sharing.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, Mr. Krishna, please
Mr.
go ahead.
Krishna, can you upload?
Yeah. Can you say it? Can you see it, Elyas?
Mr. Krishna, can you upload? Or I should share my screen?
Are you able to see my screen? Hello, Elyas? Okay.
So sorry. So, Mr. Krishna, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you see the slides?
Yes. Thank you so much. So thank you so much again for this opportunity to give us. We are going to introduce a new method regarding early diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease with the combination of image processing and signal processing with my co-authors, ELMAN and MLP. So in the first slide, please next. We have to know what is the definition of dementia. So in general, dementia is not a specific disease. It is a descriptive term for collection of symptoms that can be caused by a number of disorders that affect the brain. So actually, the people with dementia have significantly impaired intellectual functioning that interferes with normal activities and relationships. They also lose their ability to solve problems and maintain emotional control. And they may experience personality changes and behavioral problems such as agitation. In general, while memory loss is common symptoms of dementia, memory loss by itself does not mean that a person has dementia. Doctors diagnose dementia only if two or more brain functions, such as memory and language skill, are significantly impaired without loss of consciousness. So in the next slide, we have the important 10 signs of dementia. For example, you know, I would like to give you some public information about Alzheimer, and after that, my co-authors introduce our new method. So the signs of dementia are, for example, misplacing things, day-to-day forgetfulness problems, with language, difficult to solve problems, changes in personality, and difficulty with simple tasks, and with problems with communication. That's important sign of dementia. So in the next slide, what is the Alzheimer? The question in this slide is what is the Alzheimer disease? Alzheimer is a condition that affects in the brain. Yes, the symptoms are mild at first and become more severe over time. It's the important point. And you know, as you know, it is named after Dr. Elyas Irankhah, who first described the condition in 1906. Common symptoms of Alzheimer's disease include memory loss, language problems, and impulsive or unpredictable behavior. One of the main features of the condition is the presence of plaques and tangles in the brain. Actually, another feature is a loss of connection between the nerve cells or neurons in the brain. These features mean that information cannot pass easily between different areas of the brain or between the brain and the muscle or organs. As the symptoms worsen, it becomes harder for people to remember recent events, to reason, and to recognize people they know. Eventually, a person with Alzheimer's disease may need full-time assistance. As the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease progress slowly, it can be difficult to recognize that there's a problem. Many people feel that memory problems are simply a part of getting older. However, a timely diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease can give you the best chance to prepare and plan for the future, as well as receive any treatment or support that may help. There's no cure for Alzheimer's disease, but medication is available that can help relieve some of the symptoms and slow down the progression of the condition in some people. Various other types of support are also available to help people with Alzheimer as independently as possible, such as making changes to your home environment so it's easier to move around and remember easily tasks. So in the next slide, that's an important question about EEG, electroencephalogram. So an EEG is a test that detects abnormalities in your brain waves or in the electrical activity of your brains during the procedure. Electrodes consisting of small metal discs with thin wires are placed onto your scalp EEG. The result of this EEG actually show changes in your in the brain activities that may be useful in diagnosis brain conditional, especially Alzheimer and dementia disorder. And for finally, an electroencephalogram or EEG is a test that detects electrical activity in your brain using a small metal disc attached in your scalp. So after this slide, what information, please next slide, Mr. Krishna, thank you. What information does an EEG test give? So as I said, EEG is a safe test with no side effects. However, a person with Alzheimer's disease may experience dementia triggered by the various stimuli used in the procedure, including the flashing light. And this is not seen as a completion by medical staff because a dementia during an EEG can greatly help in diagnosis. An abnormal EEG means that there is a problem in an area of brain activity, this can offer a clue in diagnosis of various neurological conditions. And EEG testing is one part of making a diagnosis. So the next slide, regarding to neural networks and image processing. Yes, in general, about neural networks. Neural networks actually is a series of algorithms that individuals to recognize underlying relationships in a set of data through a process that mimics the way the human brain operates. In this sense, neural networks refer to systems of neurons, either organic or official in nature. So after this slide, Mike is here and he will continue this presentation. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone. I'm gonna talk about image processing. Please, next slide. Thank you so much. Image processing of MRI. Magnetic resonance imaging. Magnetic resonance imaging is a medical imaging technique used in radiology to form pictures of the anatomy and the physiological process of the body. MRI scanners use strong magnetic fields. Magnetic fields, gradients, and radio waves to generate images of the organs in the body. MRI does not involve X-ray or the use of ionizing radiation, which distinguishes it from CT and PET scans. Please, next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Binary imaging. Definition of binary imaging. Thresholding in digital image processing. Thresholding is the simplest method of segmentation images from a grayscale images, and thresholding can be used to create binary images. A binary images is one that consists of pixels that can have one of exactly two colors, usually black and white. Binary images are also called bilevel or two-level. Next, neighbors. A pixel can have 4 or 8 neighbors. We call direct neighbors those that our pixel of interest shares and edge with. Please, next slide. Thank you. Noise reduction. Noise is always presenting in digital images during image acquisition, coding, transmission, and processing steps. It's very difficult to remove noise from the digital images without the prior knowledge of filtering techniques. About median filter. The median filter is a non-linear digital filtering technique often used to remove noise from an image or signal. Such noise reduction is a typical pre-processing step to improve the results of later processing, for example, edge detection on an image. Algorithm description. The main idea of the median filter is to run through the signal entry by entry, replacing each entry with the median of neighboring entries. The pattern of neighbors is called the window which slides entry by entry over the entry signal. For one-dimensional signals, the most obvious windows is just the first few preceding and following entries, whereas for two-dimensional or higher dimensional data, the window must include all entries within a given radius or region. For example, the median filter is not a separable filter. Please, next slide. Thank you. Edge enhancement. Edge enhancement is images in images is of unique importance because the human visual system uses edge as a key factor in the comprehension of the contents of an image. Edge in different orientations can be selectively identified and enhanced. The edge-enhanced images may be combined with the original image in order to preserve the context. Optical filtering transforms and filters are tools for processing and analyzing discrete data and are commonly used in signal processing applications and computational mathematics. When data is represented as a function of time or space, the Fourier transform decomposes the data into frequency components. The FFT function uses a fast Fourier transform algorithm that reduces its computational cost compared to other direct implementations. For a more detailed introduction to Fourier analysis, see Fourier transforms. The conv and filter functions are also useful tools for modifying the amplitude or phase of input data using a transfer function. Please, next slide. Please, next slide. Hello, thank you. Square matrix coming back. Please come back. Please come back. Thank you. Like a square matrix, size of the filter specified as a positive integer or two-element vector of positive integers. Use a vector to specify the number of rows and columns in H. If you specify a scalar, then H is a square matrix. Now, I will let my co-author, Mr. Iman Bagheri, continue the speech regarding EEG signals and MRI images in diagnosis of Alzheimer and dementia. Thank you. Okay. Next slide, please.
Okay, so we're going to describe about the methods that we performed on diagnosis of Alzheimer. So we performed a kind of optimal processing of EEG signal, brain signals, and the image processing of MRI signals, and the combination of image processing and signal processing, of course, that we performed using the ELMAN neural network for the signal processing procedure, as well as the multi-layer preceptor for neural network from the, definitely for the image processing section. And then we perform a kind of combination of the ELMAN and the MLP, the signal processing and the image processing for calculating the accuracy. So next slide, please. So we are describing here in this slide the electroencephalogram signals in time domain. So when we have the voltage ranges and we see the samples of EEG, as you see, actually the ranges are from minus 100 millivolts to 100 millivolts. And we are comparing, our results are based on a comparison between the normal person, mild Alzheimer, a person suffering from mild Alzheimer, or a person is suffering from severe Alzheimer. So these are these figures that you see from the left and the right and the down are as described further. So next slide, please. We're going to describe a little bit about the EEG signals, and we have the gamma, which are the higher frequencies from 30 to 100 hertz, and the beta from 13 to 30 hertz, and alpha. And as the waves are actually getting lower, in terms of frequency, they are decreased and reduced. So we have the theta waves that are from 4 to 8 hertz, and the delta waves that are somehow maybe very close to DC frequencies. So next slide, please. Here we have the EEG signals, and we put a glass of frequency domain in front of our eyes and not to look at them in time domain. So we see the frequency bands here that, again, for the left side, actually we have the normal person suffering, not suffering from Alzheimer or any problem, but on the right side, we see that the person has a mild, actually, Alzheimer in the EEG, and the actually down figure, you can see about the person that is suffering severe Alzheimer. And what matters here in figures is that as the Alzheimer increases in terms of severity, we have that the patterns in the EEG start to actually appear. So next slide, please. We're going to describe a little bit about the signals and filters. So as we know, there are very common actually filters. We have high pass filter that they're passing the frequencies that are after the omega C, the cutting frequency. And then we have the low pass filter that is allowing to pass the frequencies from before the omega C. And then we have the band pass filter that allows actually a range of frequencies between two frequencies. So going to the next slide, we will describe a little bit about the methods in diagnosis of Alzheimer in further. But here on this slide, we have the EEG signals frequency bands. Again, we are actually indicating that we have the waves delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. And each of these frequencies that we are seeing here in the figures, we can definitely see that the EEG signal in terms of frequency domain, it has all the frequencies, but when we are going to filter them one by one, we can extract these by the cutoff frequency. For example, if in the first figure that we are seeing in the right, in the left actually top figure, we see that we use a filter that has a cutoff frequency of 4 hertz, that it allows to pass the frequencies from the 0 actually to 4 hertz. And for any waves, we're going to use a specific filter for finding that frequency bands. So going to the next slide. We use specifically a notch filter, which is a type of band stop filter. And this is usually used for actually, for trying to remove the frequency that is produced by electrical, by our outlets, the 50 hertz or maybe the 60 hertz. So giving details of the segmentation, we try to divide the signal into 2 or more segments. And the aim is for more feasible processing. That's exactly what we do. During the this segmentation, we try to make the signal smaller and smaller in shrinker pods. And we're trying to use MATLAB curve fitting toolbox. And this is the equation that you see, that the P1 times X plus P2 as a polynomial that we use here. So when we describe a little bit about in the next slide, we are actually saying that in the segmentation that we use in our method for diagnosing Alzheimer, and the way that how a person is prone to have Alzheimer, we calculated this polynomial for a normal person, again for a mild person, and a person severely suffering from Alzheimer. And the linear model is available here, and these curves are the first one normal, and the mild, and the severe respectively. So these are the values that we actually calculated. So when we go to the next slide, we are going to describe a little bit about the dots and the data that were received. So in the segmentation in diagnosis of Alzheimer, and as we have the polynomial for these 3 groups of people, we see that as our data are scattered through the time domain and specifically in frequency domain, we have the person that is suffering the severe Alzheimer. And also this theory is also going to happen for epilepsy as well. So again, these are our results. So going to the next slide, we're going to describe a little bit about the statistical features. So in the statistical features, in the next slide, we're going to describe about the central, actually, would you mind please? Yes, it's the central features that we're using here. The mean arithmetic may be geometric or harmonic, but what we actually use it here is the mean, arithmetic mean. And from the statistical, features, and specifically the central features, we have the median, which shows the middle element during our data that we received in our EEG signal. We have the mode, which we focus and concentrate more on the mode because it shows the repetition. And during the dispersion features, we have the variance and the standard deviation, and the range, which shows the maximum and minimum. And previously, the variance actually shows how every sample that we receive from our data has a difference to the median and to the arithmetic mean. And during the shape features, and we have the skewness and kurtosis that are out of our scope that we're not going to describe here. So going to the next slide, we're going to describe one very important statistical feature, which is conformity. So please, next slide. In the conformity in statistical features, it actually shows what the definition of that is, demonstrating the similarity in the frequency domain. Of course, it shows the similarity. And if we consider here in our figure that we have it here, the frequency as a horizontal axis, and we can have it the similarity in the vertical axis. And this is the formula that we used for the conformity as a function of frequency that has the conjugate of frequencies. Again, the figures showing for the normal person, a mild person, and a person suffering from severe Alzheimer. So if you notice here, what matters here through these figures is that as the person has more prone to be actually having Alzheimer, we can see that the patterns are going to start to appear. But for a normal person, we don't have any pattern. So going to the next slide, we're going to describe a little bit about the statistical features among normal and mild and severe person. As we can see here through the figures, these figures are defined for these 3 groups of people. And we're going to describe for a person that the waves of the EEG is captured as delta, beta, and alpha, and gamma. And again, these figures are indicating and demonstrating that the person that is having severe cases has a kind of data that is with more chaotic or more the kind of thing that we have with more patterns. So going to the next slide, we're going to describe about return map, something that we actually focus and concentrate more. So what is the aim of the return map? As we see, there are two visualizations here. One of them is the 2D, the other one is the 3-dimensional. We have it here. The aim is to find the hidden point, I mean, comparing to the previous points and the next point. I'm talking about the EEG samples and data. So using the return map, we can understand that how periodic and non-periodic is our signal, EEG signal, and maybe semi-periodic. Maybe we can understand how chaotic is that, and parameters like trajectory of the system in state space, or present point, working point, etc. And when describing in the figure, I mean the right down figure in the 3D visualization, we can see the interpretation of samples, and as they are in a line and there are actually distance in terms of line between the samples, we can understand this person has a less chance of Alzheimer. As these patterns are going to actually centralize, they're trying to show that this person is prone to Alzheimer. Then we will, in details, we're going to actually describe how a person can have Alzheimer in terms of accuracy that we actually calculate further. Centralized and circularized, we can see in the 3D figures that these find some similarity found in the return map, that they're showing and indicating that there are higher chances of Alzheimer. So going to the next slide, please. We're going to describe a little bit about the image processing and the multi-layer perceptron that we perform. Again, we're describing the central features, dispersion features, and the shape features, but what we actually going to describe more is about the mode that we use it, because what matters to us is about the repetition. That in terms of the EEG signals, we have the patterns and repetition, and we use the most important thing, which is the central features of mode. Next slide, please. Here we have the ELMAN and multi-layer perceptron. Please, next slide, yes. Yes, the ELMAN and multi-layer perceptron that we used for, respectively, for the EEG signal and MRI images, we use a neural network architecture that, coming back please, architecture that generally is describing about the two-layer model, but there are of course some layers between, including the recurrent layer providing the feedback from the end of the layers to the front and input actually layers. So including some hidden layers, and we know that these kind of recurrent structure are going to perform weight updating for us based on the feedback that we receive from the end of our layer. And based on the number of neurons, we know that there are features in hidden layer. I mean, as the number of neurons actually increase, there are high chances that we have more features in the hidden layers. And as the number of neurons absolutely increases, the conformity increases. Going to the next slide, please, that we're going to describe about our final results and conclusions. So giving in details, please, next slide. Giving in details of our final results, we know that, again, we're indicating this fact that Alzheimer is a kind of continuous decline in thinking, behavioral, and social skills, and disrupt a person's ability, absolutely. And the truth about the originality is is the fact that it's still unknown, the originality of that. But we can describe about the brain signal analysis that we performed, as we previously done, about the way that we use the ELMAN neural network for the EEG signals. And in our technique, in the MRI images that we performed the image processing using the multi-layer perceptron neural network, we get to this important fact that statistical features in, the central during the mean, mode, and median, we found that mode has the most important thing for us because we need to find the repetition and patterns inside the EEG signal. So as the more severe Alzheimer is, the more values exactly in the central statistical features based on our analysis that we found in our results. And during the dispersion features, among the 5 frequency bands, we know that for a normal person, mild and severe Alzheimer person, we know that the mean actual increase, when the mean actually increases by the delta waves, in terms of the delta bands, we can see for people, for all of the people in the ranges, we have the mean that is increased, and also for the theta that we see the theta actually increase with relationship to the mean statistical features. So when we go through the next slide, we're going to describe more about our results and conclusion. Please, next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay, statistical features, as I mentioned, the dispersion among normal, mild, and severe person. We can see through the range, standard deviation, and variance. We see that the least values are given for the gamma waves. When we are capturing and recording the gamma waves, we see that there are least values here. And for calculating the accuracy, ELMAN neural network actually helped us and contributed us a lot for extracting features, including statistical features related to electroencephalogram signals and the nonlinear features of the phase map, which was really impressive for us, and statistical features related to MR images. And when we were calculating the accuracy results among 3 classes of people, normal and mild people, normal and severe people, and the mild and severe people, we can see given in details in the next slide in some table. In that table, in the next slide, we see our final result and conclusion for these 3 groups of people. The people that, 3 groups of people. The first one, normal and mild people. The second one, normal and severe people. And third one, mild and severe people. So we used first we used signal processing technique and using the ELMAN neural network, and we see this result 73.8, which the highest value that we have it here is for normal and severe people. And through the image processing and the multi-layer perceptron neural network that we performed here, we found that for people, the group people combination of normal and severe people, we have the highest value of 84.3%. And using both combination of image processing and signal processing through the EEG signals and the MRI images, not to use both at the same time, what we perform is to use kind of O between them, some people signal and some people image, and the combination of that, we understood that for the people that are experiencing normal and severe, we have the highest values. So given in details of these results, we can see them through these classes of people in the next slides by some figures that we perform as our final slide. So in the last slide, we can see that, please click on the next slide, please. We see that these interpretations are given, again, indicating and demonstrating the fact that when you are using both signal processing and image processing for people, we have higher values and better values, of course. So thank you very much for letting us to have this presentation. And we're going to actually wait for, okay, at this point, because this presentation was in Great Britain, I try to speak in British. So I'm going to come back to the American speech. And then I'm waiting for people that they might have some questions, and I will be responsible for answering them. Thank you very much.
Sir, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Sir, you have very well explained
Yes,
the different kinds of wavelengths and different methods and
Can you hear me
statistical.
now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, right now I can hear you.
Yeah. So thank you very much for the explanation, statistical and different wavelengths we have used. My simple question as a common man, I'm just
Sounds like
asking
that the
because
network is a little bit problematic.
sound, any sound problem?
Yeah, it sounds like there is a problem regarding the bandwidth of the internet. Will you ask your question again? Ask your question, please. Once again.
Yeah. So I'll simplify the question for you. That my simple question, like a common man, can this new technique of EEG replace the expensive tool of MRI, and related to that, if some of the symptoms at the age of 70s or 80s are visible, so if these things can be assessed
It
before
sounds
the
like okay, continue, please.
so that the interventions can be given prior to the severity of the disease, when the person is totally invalid or unable to do anything.
It sounds like that the audio is not really receivable. Is it possible to write it in the chat box?
Okay.
I'm so sorry for that, because when you talk, the audio is interrupted. Let me see.
Okay. Elyas, can you share your email ID in the chat box so that they can draft an email to you?
Email? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is me, Iman, by the way, but I guess here. Let me just. In the chat box, you mean?
Yeah.
Just a second. This is my co-author email. So I understood a little bit about the question that you asked, Dr. Jana. I understand, but this is a technique that we used, and this would be a kind of replacement that we can perform based on the MRI images, and it's as well as the MRI images. That's what we perform, actually kind of combination between these two methods. And we calculate the accuracy with a value of 84%. I mean, is it enough for answering that? Or maybe I couldn't actually listen to some part of the question because of interrupting the internet problems, network problems. Because every time it shows that our network bandwidth is low, I mean, there are some problems regarding understanding.
Okay, okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Elyas. Any questions for Elyas?
It's me, Iman, actually. Elyas was the first person presenting.
Yeah, okay, okay. I do know.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Good question. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so it's finished. So thank you very much for dedicating the time.
Thank you, Elyas and his team. Thank you for the talk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Best wishes.
So,
Yes, Mr. Krishna.
that's it from my end. I think Rafael and Julia is not able to present today, so we can wind up the webinar for the day. I request Dr. Anjana to give a closing note.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. As a conclusive note, on behalf of Confrontiers Conferences LLP, I would like to thank all the speakers who have taken their valuable time and connect here in our webinar. Hope you all had great talks on all these 2 days on dementia webinar. We would request you to be the part of our next physical event in the beautiful city Paris in France during June 9th to 11th, 2021. All our webinar participants are eligible for 30% discount on conference fee. Then conference fee. For more information, you can even drop the email on dementia@confrontiers.net or dementia@confrontiers.com. Personally, I would like to thank all the speakers, scientists, professors who have widened my horizons in the field of dementia in terms of technology, processes, and other things. Thank you so much. Have a great time ahead. We'll definitely meet in Paris, I suppose, Mr. Krishna and Abekar. And personally thank Mr. Krishna and Abekar, who has constantly been support and connected with ease with us.
Thank you, Dr. Anjana.
Thank you all, and it was a pleasure attending two-day conference and meeting you all.
Thank you, Dr. Shilpa.
Thank you, Dr. Shilpa.
Thank you.
And hi all.
Dr. Anjana, can I have your number or something where I can
Dr. Anjana Agarwal @ email.com.
Dr. Anjana,
gmail.com.
Dr. Anjana Agrawal?
Dr. Anjana Agarwal @gmail.com.
Okay, fine.
You just fill my name and Google, you will find something or the other.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you.
But it's one nice to interact with you. I was also thinking to get your, so please send me your details. I'll definitely connect with you.
Sure. Thank you.
Welcome.
I request Dr. Majid to say a few words.
Yes, hi all. Good day. It was a wonderful experience, and again, I can't emphasize enough. I mean, how informative and you know, the knowledge we gained actually from each presentation. And thank you so much all. Just it was a pleasure really meeting you all, and hope our paths will cross again somewhere. All right, all the best. Take care. Best of luck in your future career. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Majid. Okay. Anything else?